practice, bolster a couple of blocks. We'll start seated today. And depending on how sitting is most comfortable for you, you might come sitting up on a bolster and then support the knees with blocks. And as always, if this starting shape doesn't work in your body, you find a shape that does. You can come to lie down on your back. You can come into child's pose, whatever works. You might even bring the soles of the feet together and the knees wide, coming into like a bound ankle pose. But what I want to encourage is that instead of coming into a shape where you're kind of rounded back and your pelvis is sort of tucked under, I'd like you to come into a shape where your hip bones are a little bit above the level of the knees. And this just allows your lumbar spine to come into a nice gentle curve. So take your time to find your comfortable seat. And then today we'll be working with the yogic principle of lightness, rajas. It's also called the element of vata, bringing in a little bit of dryness and coolness into our practice. Throughout June, we've been working with the yogic principle of the root chakra, which has a tendency to be a very grounding, heating, leveling out sensation. And right now, it's incredibly hot outside. It's very humid. So that principle of getting grounded and heated and warm and steady could just kind of knock you out. So today we'll be working with this principle of lightness and kind of the reverse, kind of bringing our energy up into the head and getting rid of some excess heat through a couple breath practices and through the postures that we take on. So with all of that, landing in your comfortable shape. Imagine sending a plumb line from the top of your head through your spine all the way down through the pelvis, and the crown of the head lengthening upward, and the pelvis acting as an anchor, steadying you, connecting you. And then feel the movement of the breath. Notice the coolness at the nostrils as you breathe in. Notice the coolness of the air as it comes into the throat, into the airways. Then as you exhale, you'll notice that sense of heat. And so imagining with your in-breath, you can create a little bit of extra cooling, bringing in a little bit of air conditioning with your in-breath. And then with your exhale, really let that heat go. Visualize sending it away, anything that feels too hot. You might even sigh the breath out. Imagine this cooling air flowing and circulating through the whole body, gathering up any excess heat, anything that feels sluggish or stagnant, and then exhaling it out, feeling the body temperature drop down, feeling yourself getting a little bit lighter, a little bit more easeful. And this yogic principle of rajas also means elevated or even holy. And so it's this energy of lightness. So breathing in, as you bring in that cool sensation, bring in a sense of elevation and lightness, even dryness. Take a few more cycles of breath here. Checking in with the big joints in the body. So starting with the knees. Just notice how your knees are feeling. Check in with the hips, the sacrum, the ankles, the shoulders, and then all the joints of the spinal column. And as you breathe in, imagine bringing coolness into your joints. Exhaling and sending some of that heated energy outside of your body. So on these really hot, muggy days, our joints can feel inflamed and swollen. And so here we're just using the power of the mind to bring coolness and ease. And then tune into your muscles, especially the large muscle groups, the lower legs, the thighs, your seats, muscles in your abdomen and core, muscles along the arms, even the muscles in the face and jaw. And this hot, humid weather can make our muscles feel kind of draggy and heavy, like moving would just take too much energy. So take a couple breaths to bring coolness into the muscles. Notice what areas feel that heat, anything that sort of feels like a reservoir of warmth. Bring your in-breath there. And then last but not least, notice your skin. If you're able, tune into sensations of the air brushing against the surface of your body. You might notice the heat of where your hands are resting or where your seat is meeting the ground. And just as we've been doing, imagining your in-breath can bring in that little mental air conditioning, and your out-breath sends heat away. We'll take one more breath in and a big breath out. And then we'll sweep hands out and up, breathing in. And then exhale, hands to heart center, gaze down, press the elbows down, draw the shoulders back. Lift the sternum toward the thumbs, but draw the thumbs back in. Take 3 breaths from here. Encouraging the inhale to really fill that upper back and mid back, the back of the neck. And exhaling, letting go of anything that feels extra. And then breathing in, sweep out and up. And then breathing out, we'll just let the hands rest on the thighs. And then feel free to rearrange your seat. You might want to switch how you're sitting. We won't be here too long. For me, this is a little bit too high with bound angle shape. So I'm just going to set that aside. So, and I've been gardening, so I just noticed the soles of my feet are not very clean. I need to remember not to garden before I practice. And then I'm actually going to sit cross-legged. So however you'd like to sit, we won't be here really long. You can stay up on your bolster, you can sit up on blocks, but you'll want a couple blocks to either side. So sort of bring the blocks and let them drop down. So big sweep out and up. And then right hand comes to the block, press down, reach up, and then come into a side stretch. And then take a peek down, see that you're in one plane, that your shoulders are in line with the hips, elbows in line with the shoulder, wrist in line. So rather than rounding forward or opening, we're just maintaining that side body stretch. Feel the work happening as you press down into the block, sinking into the left sitting bone. And then inhale, come up, turn the palm to face away, so thumb forward, and bring the hand down. Press down. Let the block be right in line with the hip. Pressing down, inhale, extending up, sinking into the right sitting bone, and then coming over. And again, take a look and just see that your head's not dropping forward. You're not collapsing. You're engaged. You're lifted. And the arm can be bent. It can be straight. One more breath into that stretch, sinking down into the right hip. And then inhale, come up, turn the palm away, and exhale down. And then here we'll do a little bit of movement. So big inhale, reaching up, and then hand comes to the head, and we'll open up toward the sky. So we're bringing the elbow a little bit back in space. So we're opening up through the heart space. And then come into your side stretch any amount. For me, this is about all I can do until I get pinching in the SI joint. So I just want to get a nice stretch and coming into the front part of the belly. And then inhale, coming up, turn the palm away, press down. Inhale, reaching right hand up. And then exhale, hand to head, and use that as leverage to press the elbow back, opening the armpit toward the sky, sinking into the right hip. And notice if you can come further in on this side, or maybe it's more limited here. Just noticing your anatomical differences, left to right. And then inhale, coming back up. Reach both hands up this time, palms face each other. And then walk the hands into a little forward fold. Any amount. Listen to your body here. No pinching or grinding. Let the head go if that feels okay. You can also bring your hands to blocks to bring the ground closer to you. And then we'll kind of come into a little bit of a pelvic tilt by pressing down into the hands, tucking the tail under and rounding the spine. One more breath in and a breath out. And then come on up. We'll come into table pose. So from here, start with pointer fingers facing forward and the eyes of the elbows facing each other. I'm just going to switch direction. That feels a little bit better. There we go. So instead of the eyes of the elbows where you get your IV taken pointing forward, we're going to rotate and spin that forearm inward. So this internal rotation, we're going to plug the heads of the arm bones in and back toward the hips, and then draw the waistline up toward the sky. Reach the pelvis back. So, instead of coming into kind of a cow spine or rounding into a cat spine, we're almost doing plank pose. And then breathing in, crown of the head lifts up. And then breathing out, we'll tuck the tail, sink the hips back for our little cat variation. Inhale, come forward. Shoulders a little bit in front of the wrists, coming into our cow variation. Exhale, tuck the tail round, press back. Stretching through the sacrum and lumbar spine. And breathing in, come forward, zip up through the belly, and then lift the tail, lift the gaze, roll the heads of the arm bones back. So you're getting broad through the chest here. And then exhale, sink back. And inhale, come forward. And then we'll reset through puppy pose. So place the forearms down. The hips are going to stay right over the knees and reach the sitting bones up and back. So instead of tucking under, we're going into a bit of an anterior pelvic tilt. And then you might bring the hands down. You can cross the forearms, resting the hands, and then resting the head on top of those stacked hands. You can also have the arms long. It's a lot for the shoulders, but it can feel nice in the chest and armpits. Let's take 2 more breaths, reaching up and back through your feet. Soften the heart down. And then come back through your table pose. And we'll extend the right leg. Keep the toes on the ground. So hug the forearms in once again, so that internal rotation. And the back leg is engaged, toes are pressing down, and press back through the heel. Feel that nice stretch through the calf. Quad is engaged, glutes engaged. And then inhale, lift that right leg. And with the exhale, cross it over the other leg. If you feel off balance, you might tuck the toes of the left leg. So the right foot is coming to the outside of the mat, and then zip up through the belly once again, and then hug left knee or left or right shoulder, no, left shoulder toward left hip. Any muscles that are feeling that heat, use your inhale to cool them off and your exhale to dispel that excess heat. And then inhale, come back through center, feel the spine get long. And then exhale, returning to puppy pose or child's pose, whichever feels best in your body. Finding some rest for the hands. The hands might even come by the feet. We'll take a few more breaths. Feeling the heat of your breath as you exhale right down toward the mat, sending that warmth down to the earth. And then roll the wrists a couple times. If you're in puppy pose, you can come onto the elbows and roll the wrists here. Open and close the hands a couple times. And like you're flicking water off, flicking that heat, kind of feeling the muscles in the hands and the joints, those knuckles. And then we'll come back to our table. Tone the forearms toward the midline, plug the heads of the arm bones, zip up through the belly, and then send the left leg back. I'm getting that nice stretch. I think I switched sides before. I wasn't mirroring. And then inhale the left leg up, and then exhale, cross it over. And really press through the heel here. Keep engaging the belly. Let the low ribs drop down. And then hug your shoulder toward your hip. Nice. Feeling that warmth in the body, that squeeze in the side body, strength and stretching on the opposite side. And then inhale, come back through center, and exhale into your reset shape. Maybe instead of child's pose or puppy pose, you come into rock pose, which is knees and thighs together, heels together, coming into a little stone shape. You might visualize yourself as a little rock getting tossed into a cool stream. And then again, roll the wrists a couple times. Maybe flap the hands like a seal, kind of fingers and palms together like a paddle and just wag. And then once again, flick that excess heat out of the hands. You might even shake it off. And then breathing in, come back through your table pose. And then we'll turn the eyes, the elbows to face forward. Bring the shoulders in front of the wrists. Drop your seat without collapsing at the low back. So just a nice half plank pose, drawing the waistline back. And without letting the chin drop before the shoulders, lower down pelvis, belly, chest. Bring the hands right beneath the shoulders, inner arms hug in. Roll the heads of the arm bones back. Get the legs nice and long and strong. Breathing in, peel up, baby cobra. And then a big exhale out, stay lifted. And then an inhale. And then this time, exhale, release down. We'll come into a locust pose. So hands come by the thighs, palms hug in, inner arms hug the ribs. Peel up, let the head come up last, breathe in. And then a big exhale, staying lifted. Inhale, come up a little bit more. Maybe feet and hands lift up. And then exhale down. Bring the hands close to the chest. Get the legs to be nice and long. Deep breath in and deep breath out. Strong through the core. Head, the arm bones roll back. Press all the way up, cobra. Breathing in. And then breathing out. Exhale, gazing forward. Breath in, maybe look up. And a breath out. Hug the elbows toward the waist. Lower down. Pelvis, belly, chest, shoulders. Take rest. And take 5 breaths. Feeling the currents of the air on your skin. Feeling the breath flow. Then after your fifth breath, bring the hands back beneath the shoulders, engage the belly, lift the waistline toward the sky, and press the hips back, coming into child's pose or puppy pose. Deep breath in and deep breath out. And then we'll come into our downward facing dog. And then lift the right heel, sink the left heel. Tone the forearms toward each other, and then lift the other heel, switching sides. And just go back and forth a couple times. And then bend into the knees, lift the heels, and then straighten the legs, sink the heels. One more time, bend the knees, lift the heels, and then exhale, press the heels down, straighten the legs a touch. Make your way into a forward fold. Either walking hands to feet or feet to hands, clasp opposite elbows, and then hang in ragdoll. Let the arm bones be heavy, belly and chest rest heavily on the thighs, head heavy. Feel the heat beneath your feet. And feel the circulation of the air around everything else. And then inhale, hands to shins. Feel the air currents pass between your legs and your torso. Exhale, bend and fold. Look behind you. And then inhale, sweep the hands high, breathing deeply. And then exhale, hands to heart. We'll take 5 breaths in our mountain pose with the hands drop by the thighs. Softening the knees, tuning into the warmth of the ground beneath the feet. Feel the currents of air brushing against your skin everywhere else. Feel the joints cooling. Feel the muscles cooling. Let's take one more breath in and out. Nicely done. And then we'll step to the top of the mat. Deep breath in, sweep high. And deep breath out, hands come to the mat. Step back into your plank pose, right foot then left foot. And then bring the knees down, turning it into table. Reach the pelvis back, crown of the head reaches forward. Inhale, right leg zip up through the belly, lifting the right leg about hip high. And then exhale, cross the right foot over. One more breath in and out. And then inhale, re-extend. And exhale, set that foot down. We'll come into a little tricky thread the needle. So right leg is extended, left hand is going to creep underneath. And you might need to adjust here a little bit. Coming into a little snazzy thread the needle. Tucking the toes on the left foot, pressing through the left shoulder, left hand. If you're feeling tricky, you might lift the right leg, coming into balancing thread the needle. Only if it feels okay on the shoulder and on the neck. I'm pressing firmly down through the right fingertips. Breath in, and then a breath out. Foot comes back down. If you lifted it, place the right hand right in front of the face. Come up, sweep left hand up toward the sky. 2 more breaths. And then hand comes back down. Sink back into your puppy pose, child's pose, or maybe rock pose. 5 breaths. Letting go of holding, letting go of tension. And then breathing in, come back from your table, up and back, downward facing dog. We'll take 5 breaths in downward facing dog. Keep reaching the waistline up and back. Soften the front ribs down. Press the chest toward the thighs. The heels never need to be on the ground. They might stay well lifted. The legs don't need to be straight. They might stay well bent. And then from your downward facing dog, roll forward into your plank pose, neck nice and long, and then turn it into your knees down plank to your table. Stabilize your table, crown of the head reaching forward, shoulders plugging back. So creating space between shoulders and ears. Extend the left leg, reach the left leg hip height. Zip up through your belly once again. Cross that foot over. Hug right knee or right shoulder toward right hip. And then inhale, come back through center. Plug those toes down on the ground. You know where we're going. We'll float the right hand, and then the right arm comes underneath. Go slowly because it's easy to tip over here. Reach the shoulder underneath. Use the fingertips on the left hand for stability. And you can press into the feet for stability. You might float the leg. Only if it feels okay. One more breath in. And then exhale, bring the foot back down. Bring the left hand right in front of the face. Engage the belly, press up. Bring the shoulder right over the wrist, and then sweep the right arm up toward the sky. Maybe look up. And then an inhale. And then an exhale. Hands come down. Child's pose, rock pose, puppy pose, your rest shape for a few breaths. And then breathing in, come back through your table, tuck the toes, breathing out, downward facing dog. 5 breaths in dog once again. Neck is nice and long. Pelvis reaches back. And then lift the heels, bend the knees, gaze forward, step into your forward folds. Once again, we'll find our waterfall pose. So bending the knees, let the spine round over, letting the torso drape over the legs. Let the head go. Sending that heat down through the feet. And then inhale to your flat back, hands to shins. Reach the crown of the head. Exhale, release and fold. And then root down, rise up, sweep high. Exhale, hands to heart. And then breathing in and breathing out, mountain pose. Feel steady. And then we'll step to the top of the mat. And we'll step the right foot back. But we're going to come first into lunge, but we're going to turn it right away into a warrior two. So the hips and the shoulders are going to stay facing forward, and then the hips and shoulders are going to open wide. And so hands to heart, weight into the left foot, bending the right knee, zip up through the belly, and then step the right foot back, coming into your lunge. And then straight away, turn the pelvis, turn the shoulders, bring the foot down. And then take a peek, see that you center the feet. So take a moment to align the center of the right foot with the heel of the left foot. So we're coming into this external rotation. And that alignment is usually what allows the hips to be level and the hips and the shoulders to be in a long line. But you can always adjust. So the foot might be more forward. It might be more back, depending on what feels good. Same thing in the back foot. It might angle more forward or it might angle more to the side. And then extending the arms, soften the shoulders, draw the waistline back, sink the tail, get really heavy through the legs and the feet, pressing down, and then cultivate that sense of lightness through the upper body. Keep opening through that front inner thigh. And then inhale, straighten the front leg. We'll reach forward and then bring hand to the top of the thigh bone. So left hand to the top of the thigh bone, right hand reaches up, and then continue to sink in any amount. If it feels better, you can bring hand to shin. You can drop the arm and press into the leg. You can even do what we did in the beginning, which is bring the hand to the head and open up, using that resistance to find length in the spine. And eventually in triangle, the torso might be level to the ground. So like the upper line of the torso could be parallel to the ground, but maybe not. Whatever feels good for you today. And then come back into your warrior two, gaze over those front fingers. And then we'll do a careful pivot, lifting the back heel, turn the back toes forward, bring the hands down, and then step into your downward facing dog. 5 breaths to settle all of that sensation. And then after your 5th breath, make your way into a forward fold. Clasp opposite elbows, swing side to side a little bit, bringing one elbow forward, the other elbow back. And then find your half lift, breathe in, breathe out, forward fold, root down, rise up, sweep high. And then a big exhale, hands to heart. Deep inhale, and then a big exhale into your mountain pose. And we'll step to the top of the mat. I'm going to change direction so that my backside isn't toward you. All right, so go to the other side. So breath in, hands to heart, get tall. And then we'll lift the left leg, stand tall in the right leg. Step the foot back, coming into your lunge. Might be tricky to balance straight away. And then bring the back heel down. Turn the torso to the side. And from here, if you stay here, it's going to be really awkward. So you need to adjust your feet, center the heel, center the arch of the back foot, aligning the hips with the ankles, the shoulders with the knees, more or less, and dropping the back hip down. And so your warrior two might be here. It might be really wide, but we always adjust for where you are in your body today. My tendency is always to let that back hip hike up. So I usually need to give myself the reminder to bring it so it's a little bit more in line with the front hip. And then steady, strong gaze over the front fingers. Back leg is really strongly engaged, pressing back and down. Feel the ground beneath the feet. And that lifting quality through the torso. Making sure that front knee doesn't collapse inward. And then straighten the front leg. And here we allow that back hip to roll a little bit forward. And then hand can come to hip. And then begin to tip into your triangle pose. If it feels like the hip is pulling your torso down, see if you can keep the hip kind of rolling forward, but then keep your rotation square to the long edge of the mat. So even though my hip is technically rolling forward, kind of coming in a little bit more into the rotation. And then again, just like we did before, you can let this grow any way you'd like. You can drop down, you can do hand in, your hand to head. You can skip all of it. And then inhale, coming back up. Exhale, bend, nice. Bend into the front knee, gaze over the front shoulder. Cartwheel the hands. Pivot the back foot to face forward and step the front foot to meet the back foot, downward facing dog. Couple breaths. One more breath in and out. And then walk feet to hands, forward folds. Clasp opposite elbows round, waterfall. One elbow forward, then the other elbow forward. Maybe shimmy the hips side to side here. And then find your half lift, look up. Exhale to fold. Press through the feet, sweep high. And then exhale, hands to heart. Take a breath in. Soften the knees, exhale. Mountain pose. And then we'll come on to the mat. Bring your bolster and your blocks. And so we'll set up for a little heart opener. And so you'll do your bolster lengthwise. And you'll scooch pretty close to your bolster. So your sacrum is right there. There's no space between you and your support. And then you bring the soles of the feet together. And then you'll bring the blocks either on their highest setting, their medium setting, but you'll bring them to meet your knees. So instead of letting the knees just drop onto the blocks, you can bring the blocks on an angle to meet the knee or the thigh. And then when you find that perfect shape for your body, where it's just a gentle opening through the inner thighs, the back feels comfortable, let's let the legs relax. And a little bit of curve for the cervical spine, letting the chin lift a little bit, the shoulders dropping down. If the sensation is too intense, you can scooch the legs further away from the body. And if you need more intensity, bring the heels close in toward your sitting bones. Same thing with the height of the knees. The closer your knees are to the earth, the more sensation, the greater the angle of opening. And then if you're feeling that's too intense, you can lift the legs up onto their highest setting. And then again, returning to this inhale as a cooling breath, bringing in that air conditioning. And the exhale as you exhaust, getting rid of any of that stuck, overheated, sluggish energy. Check to see how you're feeling in this heart opener. If it's too intense in the low back, you might lift your seat up onto a towel or scooch your seat further away from the bolster. That just reduces that lumbar curve a bit. We'll be here another few minutes. We'll take another few moments here. Letting the exhale go completely, feeling the belly and the chest drop down as you release the breath. And then using the hands, you place the hands to the outside of the legs, draw the knees in toward each other. Just don't want to strain those inner thigh muscles. Then let the legs rock side to side. And from here, we'll just do just a couple breaths in a reclining figure four. So crossing one ankle over the knee. Take a few breaths, press the knee forward. Release that foot and switch sides. Ankle over the top of the thigh, or just below the knee joint. Use the hand to press the knee forward and away from the body. Opening up through that outer hip and even into the hip flexor. And then release, place the foot on the ground, tick-tock side to side. And then you'll roll to one side, press up, and then we'll just scoot 180 degrees, bringing the legs up over the bolster, coming to lie down. And I like scooching my seat pretty close to your support, letting the feet just drape over, letting the knees splay a little bit wide. And then we'll get the shoulders to rest more firmly on the ground by turning the palms to face the ground and reach the hands toward the feet, kind of inching the shoulders, the shoulder blades, almost like you're coming into a little back bend. And then roll the heads of the arm bones back and down. And that just kind of plugs you onto the mat a little bit more. And then just rock a little side to side to get everything just settled. From there, turn the palms to face the sky. Check to see how the shape is landing for you. And if there are any adjustments your body's calling for, please make those. This journey of yoga is all about listening to your inner guidance. And if a shape isn't working for you, you try to make adjustments, kind of figuring out what the little tweaks you might make might be, testing those out, making the practice your own. Next few cycles of breath, tune into every nuanced sensation, both your in breath and your out breath. The space between the out breath and the space between the in breath. And begin to deepen and lengthen the breath once again. Noticing any shifts in your body and your mind, your spirit, from the time we started practice together to now. You might bring one hand to heart, one hand to belly. And perhaps here, set an intention for the rest of your day. What would help you feel grounded? What would help you feel light and clear? And how you can have those things at the same time. This balance of opposites. And then begin to wiggle fingers and toes. Maybe circle wrists and ankles. If you'd like, enjoy a full body stretch. And a big cleansing breath. And then roll to one side, pause there in a fetal position. And you might reaffirm your intention for the rest of the day. You'd like to release, what you'd like to receive, how you'd like to feel as you tuck into bed at the end of this day. And then press your way back up to seated, taking your time. And then once you're there, remind the spine to grow nice and tall, the shoulders soft, the heart open. We'll sweep the hands out and up, breathing in, take up space. And one last exhale through an open mouth, getting rid of some heat. The light in me sees and honors the light and the lightness in you. Have a beautiful rest of your day, yogis. Let me know, as always, if you have any questions. Stay cool out there. And I'll pop off the recording if anybody has any questions.